money. I need some Similac for my baby. I need some Dolce & Gabbana for me. I need some Channel. I need some Fendi. Like, come on, hook a sister up. Don't you know I love you? Te amo, I love you. Jesus, I love you. Like, ugh. Guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Tyra here with another struggle review, here to discuss He Got Game. Now, this movie is from 1998. It stars Ray Allen and Denzel Washington. Now, before I get into what hit really different about this film that didn't really hit before, I need you guys to drop down and subscribe to my channel and like this video. I'm going to give you guys a moment to do that, and then we're going to come back and discuss all things. I mean, you know, just Ray Allen, like, I just, Now that you guys have hopefully subscribed to see more of me, let's get into this movie. But before we jump into the video, I have to give a shout out to the person who paid for and requested this movie. So if you happen to get your whole Jake Shuttlesworth life, it's not because of me, it's because of this person right here. Thank you so much for supporting me and paying for this content, giving us all this good, you know, this good Denzel. Denzel is in full effect here. Now, immediately what stands out here for me is the opening credits, where we get some of the most simplistic yet beautiful directing and cinematography that we would ever want to see. It is absolutely a contest here as far as Spike Lee is concerned. The opening with clockers and, you know, the directing and the cinematography of all the dead bodies versus the beauty that we get here when we just see an array of people in different parts of the world playing basketball. The way he captured it, it's lit. It's lit as fuck. Lit. Now we also get into the beauty and the contrast of Jesus Shuttlesworth, Ray Allen playing basketball in the projects versus Denzel Washington's Jake playing that same game in prison. Now, the warden, along with the governor, is willing to give Jake less time if he can convince his soon-to-be basketball star son, Jesus, to go to the governor's alma mater, and he has a week to do so. Now, even though this is very much so an exaggerated event, I love here that Spike Lee shines a light on what some reps, agents, coaches, whomevers are willing to do just to get someone with amazing athletic ability to go to a school, a college, a team of their choice. They are willing to let his father, a whole convicted murderer, out. Even go so far as to create a diversion and make Jake sick to get him out and have him tailed, harassed, followed constantly by two of the worst raggedy ass probation officers that you would ever want to see, just so his son can sign up to go to a governor's school so their team can have a better chance at winning. Commodity. We still very much see a lot of this today. We see young, prime, able, phenomenal athletes and the lengths that some recruiters are willing to go through to have them. Yet how disrespected they are, how discarded they are, just downright disposable they can become due to disagreements, injury, or just being mentally exhausted from playing the sport. Now, after we get more into Jim Brown being a PO, doing PO Jim Brown shit, setting Jake all up in the seediest of the seediest motels that you would ever want to see so he can leverage his own fucking son so he can get out early, we get into Ray Allen, who's all up and through Lala, fine ass Boricua, who has an agenda all her own. Jesus Shuttlesworth couldn't be bothered with Jake's ass, but at that moment, we don't know why. But right around around that time, you know, when I got into the beautiful stylings and acting capabilities of Rosario's Lala, Denzel Washington, this by far is one of my favorite, definitely top 3 Denzel Washington performances as far as movies are concerned. He gives so much to this Jake Shuttlesworth characters, takes us through so many different emotions. He does an amazing job here. But you know, after I, you know, kind of got into those two, it made me lean over to Ray Allen and the lacking that was going on there.
I hear you, Uncle Bubba. I ain't gonna forget what you done for me. You are on Sally. When I get mine, you gonna get yours. Like, what? Mary, why you in here? What would I tell you about talking to strangers? And why we don't talk straight?
It was so bad. It was so bad. The acting was so bad, and it never registered to me before. Like, there is some talent here that lets, you know, everything just go over your head, and you're just enjoying this really complex story of this father-son situation and the talent that everybody else is bringing. But a big chunk of this movie is supposed to be driven strictly by Ray Allen as Jesus. And I'm sure that Spike Lee not only wanted to give him an opportunity, but he is an actual NBA star, so he can probably relate to a lot of the subject matter at hand. There are moments where he shines and he's able to connect, you know, this angst and hatred that he's supposed to have for the father and being this budding basketball star with this big decision, and the two meet. And you know, you can really see him trying to push through, where if he probably had more time to, you know, hone in his craft, more practice, a couple of acting classes, it really would have, you know, it would have touched you here. But those are few, far, and in between moments. Outside of that, we are left with,
Ain't that what you said, huh? I want to feel you inside of me, Poppy. I want you, Pop. Ain't that what you said?
we get into Jesus's story and everything being on his shoulders. Not only taking care of his younger sister Mary, aka Zelda Harris, aka Troy Boy from Crooklyn on his shoulders, we get into what it really means to be an up-and-coming athlete. Not only for Jesus, but for everybody else who has their fucking hand out. Hook a sister up. I need some money. I need some Similac for my baby. I need some Dolce Gabbana for me. I need some Channel. I need some Fendi. Like, come on, hook a sister up. Don't you know I love you? Te amo, I love you. Jesus, I love you. Like, we have a scene in the middle of the film that encapsulates everything that's going on here with Roger Smith, aka my name is Smiley. It shows not only what Jesus is currently dealing with, but what he will probably deal with for the rest of his life. We have Uncle Bubble here. Don't forget what I've done for you. Don't forget what I've been with you. Take the clothes, take the cash, take the money, take the advances. Help me help you. What about me? What about your Aunt Sally? All this take. We have Hugh Harper here as Booger in a very downplayed, underrated role, much like the role he had in Spike Lee's Get on the Bus. He is very much so a b-ball player by himself, but he is also short. He's always been kind of a hanger-on with Jesus since childhood. We also have the coach. Don't forget, what I did for you, what I did for your sister, how I looked out for you with your grades, this, that, and the third. Take this 10K. What school are you going to? Everybody wants to know his next move, where he's going. How can you benefit me? And then we have Lala, who I will speak on more later. She wants him to speak to, her brother, her friend of the family, agents who will offer him everything, but they're left fucking nut for him to sign. He kind of basks in it. It's like, it's a whole popularity situation. I love that Spike Lee gave his character the name Jesus, even though we realize why he got it later in the film. It's more so just a representation of how athletic stars are treated. He's treated like a god. Jesus, the second freaking coming. He is lifted up on such a high pedestal. And Big Willie in that amazing car ride scene with all the reflections of what he's gonna deal with, not only on an everyday basis, but even when he gets into the league, like, people are gonna come after you with that crabs in a barrel mentality. They only see you as an opportunity. Don't get distracted by, these women, sex, drugs, alcohol, the leeches, te amo, Jesus, I love you. And right at this particular moment, even your own father. But unlike everybody else around you, is it valid and is it deserved? Once we realize why Jesus isn't excited to see him and why he was in jail in the first place. Now, once we get deeper into Jesus and Jake's relationship, I love how subtle Spike Lee lets us know just how much he is like his father and how much they have in common. They share the same mannerisms. They handle the ball the same. He was the first person to believe in him, to coach him. They share so much and have so much in common. But the most potent thing that you notice here, going back to revisit this film, is that anger that they share. Jesus is just as angry and has all this angst and aggression towards his father, just as his father had towards him when we get further down the line in the movie and how he decided to push him so hard. Now, we also have a strong side plot here with Thomas Bird, aka Sweetness the Pimp, and Mila Jovovich. Like, going back to watch this now, I didn't care for it very much, but I did appreciate some aspects about it. Now, me in particular, I really didn't need, don't save her, she don't want to be saved, super save a hole syndrome that Jake has here in the film, to know that he was a sincere character that we should feel sorry for and care about. The way that Denzel portrays him and the sincerity in his eyes all the way when he's behind bars, you feel for him as a character even when we know exactly what he did. And that's when we get into the conflict of, should he sign or shouldn't he sign? Should he try to help his father at all? I just really didn't need that. Like, her just being so settled in her ways of being, the bottom bitch. I was like, okay, and this seedy ass motel, like, the most I took away from that, which I absolutely love, was when I first saw this movie and I saw Mila Jovovich, I remembered her more from being a supermodel and her just being a pretty face. This was one of the movies that let me know, like, oh, she can really act. Because at the time, I only really remembered her from the Resident Evil franchise, but when we get into movies like this and her role in The Fifth Element, it's like, oh, okay, she has range. But in all honesty, these are the moments that I felt the movie kind of dragged, and I was just, I just really didn't care for it. But I will forever and always be outside for Thomas Bird, R.I.P. Like, him here at Sweetness is always everything. He gives us the dramatics. He's always emoting time after time with energy in every single role, whether he is playing Luther and Set It Off, if he's, Evan, my name, Junior. He has been in a plethora of Spike Lee movies. He adds a certain nuance, a certain amount of funk. He just, he does something special in Spike Lee's movies. And it's very much so respected. And I feel like that's what Spike saw in him. And that's why he continued to cast him so often. R.I.P. to Thomas Bird. Now, after we leave me yelling at the screen, Jake, we don't have time for you to be saving Mary Sue. We have a couple of days for you to try to get your son to sign this paper. We alternate between those moments of Jake at that nasty ass motel and spend time with Miss Lala trying to plot on Jesus with one band, one sound. Now, each and every scene with Rosario Dawson's Lala is some beautiful directing and cinematography going on. When we get into the way it's stylized and we get into just how sexual Lala is and how she's trying to low-key pussy whip Jesus into submission of signing a contract, because of course she's in on it as well. Why shouldn't I get something out of this? If I can convince you to maybe go with the agent and instantly go pro, they're gonna take care of me. Like, Lala is in it for the bag. But as she's getting to the bag, that scene where she like wakes Jesus up out of his sleep and she's on the phone and we just see, you know, Andre's hand and she's kissing it and purring like a goddamn kitten, plotting like the little vixen that she is. That is some beautiful fucking shooting. It was like, wow, like, yes, Spike, you better just use that hand and make her look like the thought that she is. It is good. Even the scenes where they're on the roller coaster and they're, you know, all at Coley Island and whatnot, when they're having sex under the pier, it is really beautiful and so sexy. Like, you just want to get in the Ferris wheel and get it popping, you know what I'm saying? But it looks so good. I was like, damn, Spike Lee, see, this is why we love you. You make these scenes look like he made Coney Island look like a whole fantasy. Beautiful. Now, even though we do tend to see this really aggressive side to Jesus, especially when his father comes into the picture and you see that resentment he has towards him, rightfully so, we also see in the same scenario, Jesus has his head on straight and he is really a smart kid who was raised right. And then we get into why he really misses his mother so much and how she like counter-reacted all of Jake's aggression and what he really meant to her. Not to say that Jake didn't have a hand in raising him and placing those values and instilling things like, you know, hey, if I do get an agent, it's gonna be a brother. Or the fact that he wasn't eager to go pro. He wasn't eager to jump at the first amount of dollar signs or everything that everybody put in his face. He always was smart enough to know the agenda and knew that he had to go to school. My mother instilled that in me. I have to get an education. I need something to fall back on. I'm gonna make sure Mary goes to school. I'm gonna make sure the things that were implanted in me as a child comes into fruition because I was raised with values and to know better. Now, after we are introduced to the beautiful Lynette McKee and we get more into those beautiful letter opening and reading scenes, I love that scene here. Yeah. Did you get in my? Yeah, I burned him. I tore him up. I threw him away. I threw Mary's away too. But we see, of course, that he kept the letters, so we know deep down he does have some compassion for his father, but he's just not sure if he wants to show it yet or if he even deserves forgiveness for what he did. But we get into, you know, Jesus, why you naming Jesus anyway? When we get into Jesus's childhood and how he was brought up, and we get into Coach Jake, like, you can very much so see via the film and characters like Big Willie that Jake was that dude around the neighborhood and in school. He was that nigga who grew up and could ball. He had game. He had the, you know, you got the juice now, grandma. He had the fucking juice. But he maybe, you know, made a crass decision, or maybe he just didn't make it. Maybe that anger held him back. Who knows? But he was that player around the neighborhood with potential who just didn't make it and decided under any means necessary, he was going to instill that shit in his kid, raise him up to make sure he made it because he didn't. It was always so much bigger than basketball for Jake, and not much unlike other real life people in scenarios like this one. He is nurturing his son's dream, maybe, you know, living out his life through him a little bit. This is our way out of poverty, out of the projects. And Jake having been there before and knowing what it takes to be seen, what it takes to be that caliber of a player, what it takes to be a Jesus. He is so heavy and so mentally and physically hard on his son that it creates stress, it creates resentment, not only within the home, but within himself. He starts to absolutely downright hate the game of basketball and have hatred for his dad. But his dad is just being so pushy. He's trying to, you know, get into that craft, sink in. This is what you're gonna face. Son, slap, push, ball. Like, calm down. We know why you were doing this, and I know why you were doing this as my dad, but you have to remember I'm still your son. I more so want my dad more than a coach. You are being my coach, a hard-ass coach at that, 24/7. And then we have the mom trying to counter-react to everything. She is very soft-spoken, very sweet, very demure. And Jake is none of that because he only has one end goal and he can't see past that. Tunnel vision. I don't give a damn how he feels about it, what you think about it as his mom. I'm doing what I'm doing for a reason. He wants him to have that same passion for basketball that he does. Don't see it as me being hard on you. See it as me preparing you for the world, what's out there. Don't you want to be great? Don't you want to be a champion? Don't you want us to make it? Pushes the mom. She hits her head and she is completely knocked out cold. She is dead from blunt force trauma. And we also get into Jake's character a lot more at that moment, and that's where I really get my compassion for Jake as a character. We see the weight that basketball really holds for his family. We see that he seems really stressed. We see that he partakes in a drink. Like, you just see how fed up he is with his surroundings and how that has manifested in himself, and he is like pouring that shit out on his son. But due to him being really hopeless, that deep determination, all of that anger, all of those limited options that he is provided in that lackluster ass project, either you sling crack rock or have a wicked jump shot. This is our way out. But he pushed himself and his son and his family so hard that he couldn't come back from it. But I love that we do acknowledge in the film, this is not just Jake. These are things that have manifested in him due to what he's been surrounded by forever. Now, once we get towards the end of the movie, things do tend to kind of go on forever, but you know, when Spike wants to say some shit, he is going to drive that point home no matter how long the movie is. We get into Jesus going to visit another college campus, and we get into the coach, Rick Fox, showing him around the campus, and we get into what these people are willing to do just to get these kids to come and play ball. We get into all the temptation, all the white women that you would ever want to see running around just waiting to give him some sloppy toppy. Like, he's just kissing. Like, there's so much just sexual nature and all this intensity going on, or people just being really hypersexual just off of the strength that you play basketball. And you know, Rick Fox as that young star athlete who is just willing to let him engage and let him partake in all the women, and you know, oh, forget the girl back at home, I got a girl. Like, but you know, I love how Jesus goes, you know, man, you know, what about the sisters? I was like, really, Spike? You gonna tell him to say what about the sister? Like, he had a sister at home outside of Mary. Lala was Boricua. Like, that was not a sister. But it's like, you know, what about the sisters? Like, oh, they make you work too hard, they want too much. We see every reason why he wouldn't want to sign that contract, not only just to straight up just throw his father away, but look who I am here. I could be a superstar. And we also use that moment, you know, when he's caught up with two knockoff Pamela Andersons to revert back to his relationship or lack thereof with Lala. Now, watching this before, I just could give two damns about Lala. I was like, girl, you are so shysty. Like, watching this now, it's like, okay, I kind of fucks with Lala. Lala was a whole realist. Like, Lala really didn't do too much of hiding her true intentions. Now, of course, Jesus liked her and he liked being with her, so he was a little blinded, you know, by the vajayjay. But the agenda was pretty much already set. We see very early on in their relationship, Lala did come up pregnant, at which, you know, Jesus decided that it should be terminated, but it just didn't feel like some spur of the moment becoming pregnant. She was trying to have one of them good old trap babies. I can see that he's going somewhere. I need, you know, to tie him to me. And we can solely have her represented here as a user, a taker. She saw an opportunity in Jesus just like everybody else. But at the same time, you identify with Lala and appreciate that she sees the bigger picture. Like, I know what this is. You're really gonna sit up here and act like this was gonna be forever? Like, you were gonna take care of me? Like, we see very much so, just like, what about the sisters? Oh, the sisters, your mentality will change as soon as you touch down and I'm no longer there. I'm not trying to be that long lost, forgotten girlfriend, the, homeschool sweetheart that's forgotten about and left with nothing. And at that point, we are left with Jake and his decision. Does Jake deserve mercy, forgiveness? Is he, his father, or is he an opportunist waiting and looking for a moment to use his son like everybody else? And via the movie, no, he is not. He will always have his son's best interest at heart, and he goes out of his way to kind of let Jesus see that in his own way. And also the audience, like, not only am I trying to appeal and identify to your better nature so that you know that I do love you beyond this fucking paper, I want you to sign for early release, but I'm also, hey, where's Jesus? Once we see him, that anxiety starts to kick in and that time dwindle down. He's all on the street. You can't talk now. Like, what are they paying you, Lala? I recognize what this is. It's just like, you have to watch out for girls like that. He's always kind of there. He's not just there for himself, but he's also there for his son, for him to just open his eyes. And then we see gradually it becomes bigger than that. Of course, I do want early release, but I want your forgiveness more so. I want you to move past this, get that anger out of your heart. Like, I know what that's done to me as a man, as a father. Look at where I am and where we are. Like, it's done so much damage. I want you to get past this. Even if you don't sign this paper and you don't decide to, go to this school to help me, just know that I still love you. At that moment, Jake still has game. He still has a lot of influence, and he hasn't been able to play with his son since the incident of him killing his mom. But Jesus is now bigger, he's better, and he's taken everything that his father has taught him and made it even nicer. And at that point, we see that Jake is very much so at the end of his rope. He's already kind of settled into the fact that his son doesn't want to see him, doesn't want to listen to him, and does not want to sign. I've done everything that I could possibly do. At which we have him, don't save us, you don't want to get saved. He goes in to get the prostitute, Dakota, which is a growth moment in itself because we see her kind of growing beyond being a prostitute and finding herself outside of sweetness, which was really, really underdeveloped. Like, I just didn't really care for it. But I do love that in that moment we see that even though Jake has been behind bars for some time and he can't really just bring himself at that moment to have sex with Dakota, and we're not just totally sure if he did, we don't see it, but it's very much so insinuated. But you see that he has not lost any love for his wife, and he really, really regrets what he's done, and he goes to kiss her gravesite, and it's just pretty much him saying goodbye and preparing himself to go back to jail if his son does not decide to sign. But we also have him saying, this is not just about sex for me. Take that wig off, be real for a second, pretend like you mean it, pretend that there's passion. I miss that companionship, I miss my family, I miss my wife, I miss my son. But those are things that I don't think I could get back. But if I was to get out and my son did forgive me enough to sign, there's an opportunity, which makes this game mean so much. But in that moment, you kind of see him give up once he loses the game, and there's a sense of kind of passing the torch along. Like, okay, you are bigger, better. You took the things that I taught you as, when you were younger, and you have finessed them so much and made them your own, made them special, so special to the point that you're a whole basketball phenomenon. And this could be my last moment with my son. Now, when we get into Jesus's mind, that just feels like there's a sense of, I know deep down that you have my best interest at heart. I know deep down that you truly regret what you did, but it's not enough for me to sign. But since I know you as my dad, and I know that you wouldn't steer me wrong, I'm gonna go to the school. I'm gonna go to the school that you chose, or the governor chose, because I know you wouldn't lead me astray. I have seen many schools, many agents, everybody asking me what I'm doing, where I'm going, everyone trying to offer advice. But I know if I can believe and trust anybody, it's going to be my father. So I'm gonna go to the school, but not enough to give him the satisfaction to sign that paper. I still have a lot of resentment in my heart. You killed my mother. But in the very end, we do see that not only is that a sign of trust, but there is a lingering sense of hope. when we have Jesus let everybody know where he decided to go, and he writes that letter to his dad, you know, wishing him the best and thanking him, and we have Jake just kind of left in limbo. It's like, okay, well, yeah, he did end up going to the school, but you didn't really get him to sign. And I'm like, it really don't matter, he's there. But we just don't really know what's going to happen with that. But we see this fulfillment kind of come over Jake, just in a sense that even though he didn't sign it and I'm not free, and I'm just not free to be with my daughter or my son in a sense, I'm just happy that there's a sense of hope, and I have given him everything that I could possibly give him since he was a boy up until now, up until the little, you know, farce of a week that I had to try to convince him to sign this. There is a sense of hope that my son may possibly forgive me. I may not have freedom, but I have something so much bigger than that. I have hope with my son for us to be something other, probably not perfection, but there is an opportunity for forgiveness and to maybe move forward even a little bit. I will take what I can get, as he should. Now, we end off with that beautiful letter that he wrote his son, and there's a sense of passing the torch. And I love that we have Jake just kind of grow up some in his moment, because we still very much see, even from the point that he's gotten out, he's still carrying a whole lot of anger, still carrying and holding on to so much that got him in there in the first place. Not that he hasn't changed, but it seemed like that moment of seeing where his son was and how his behavior was reflected onto him throughout the film, that there was such a need to change. He doesn't need to be the one with game anymore. He needs to pass the torch on to his son. The ball is in your court to go on and move forward and take the things that I've taught you, that your mother's taught and instilled in you, and move forward and move graciously. You got game. You got the juice now, Grandma. And he symbolically throws the ball, and it literally lands in the son's court. Ah! Spike be doing that. That was beautiful. I loved it. Well, you guys, that was my review for He Got Game. I hope you enjoyed it. Please drop down and tell me what you thought about this film. Have you ever seen this film? Just, you know, get those conversations going. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. I look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you guys for my next video. Bye.